Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of WTF. I nearly said Wednesday, Thursday, Friday then. Dr. Chris Willems here with Angela Heise and Alan Stevens. And we're talking this time about gratitude and apology. And I'm sorry about the opening, but gratitude, expressing gratitude and knowing how to apologize when we stuff up. So, Angela, do you want to kick off with this one?
No. I'm sorry, I don't. No. We say, okay, the thing is we say sorry and it doesn't mean anything. And we miss saying sorry when it actually does and when it should matter. And it's the same with this meaningless thanks, you know, that we add to everything when somebody hands us something. But when it really matters, it's missing. I mean, I, for example, I remember that it was imperative to my parents that whenever we were invited to dinner somewhere, that we would call people afterwards or send a note and thank them for their hospitality and for the meal and all of that. These days, that doesn't happen anymore.
It's even sitting in the cafe just the other day, I was watching the waitress going around giving meals to people, and people were saying thank you, but just voicing the thing, not even looking at her.
Yeah.
Take that moment to actually look at the person, acknowledge them when you say it. The whole meaning of it changes. And and when she came to our table and we were, you know, we all looked at her and said thank you as she passes our meals, etc., a little smile on our face, her face just lit up.
Yeah.
So who got the best service?
Yeah.
It's a bit like "Have a nice day," you know, which was in vogue some decades ago, and it's just meaningless rubbish. It's just like, you know, but if you can make it make meaning by making eye contact when you're saying it, then especially in a situation where it's like a restaurant waiters, whatever, it just means so much more. It means something other than just yeah.
When I've had a delicious meal at a restaurant, I always make sure that I say to the waiter or the waitress, would you please tell the chef that this was absolutely delicious and thank you for putting love into this dish.
Absolutely, yes. And you don't know whether the message ever gets passed on in the busyness of running a restaurant, but you hope that it does because it's really important that people acknowledge good quality, because these days there's so little of good quality that we need to make it a point to acknowledge when we experience it. Yeah.
Everything's connected as well. You say that, okay, you've just said that to pass a message on to the chef, for instance. If we've already started by being polite to that waiter, waitress, etc., acknowledge them and everything else, I guarantee that they will, more likely than not, go and talk to the chef and say, hey, people at table such and such just made this comment about whatever the meal was that we had. So it does get passed on, because they also know that the waiters and waitresses are really smart. As far as building relationships, they are some of the best on the planet. And they know that by going and talking to the chef and pass on your message, the chef's going to be happy, and that impacts the relationship they have with the chef as well. So everything compounds. That's what we don't realize. We say, oh, it's just a thank you. No, it impacts and it flows on and it connects to other people.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And again, it comes down to relationships, isn't it? And even someone that you don't know and cannot see because they're in the kitchen working, it's important to acknowledge the work that they've done when it's a pleasant experience. It's a fantastic thing to do, and it feels really good when you do it as well. Just feels good.
And what it does is there's a bigger picture. So I go to this networking meeting on a regular basis, and we go to the same cafe, and I always have a why bother coffee, decaf, almond flat white. So I went there, and I've been going there for a couple of years, and I know the people, and there was a new barista. So she came up to the table and she said, almond flat white. And I went, right, decaf. And she stopped for a second and went, uh-huh. And then she gave it to me, and I took the first few sips, and I went, this is not decaf, I think. And then I drank it anyways. The problem with me, caffeine, and I go like this, I start vibrating in another universe. So I told them, I said, this was not decaf, was it? And they went, no, it wasn't. So they refunded the coffee, and and now when I go in, because we had the relationship before, they always go decaf, definitely decaf. And it's just created this whole universe of, of deeper connection that it makes it even more enjoyable going there.
And that shows how that stands out so much, because how many people go into that cafe every day, but yet they remember you.
I go there once
remember
a
you
fortnight.
with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
Well, if you go there once a fortnight and they still remember, that's they've put some effort into remembering who you are and what your order is, and because you had that particular interaction, and that's fantastic. And so every time when someone says, "Oh, where we go for coffee," you go there because they know you, and you've built that relationship, and that's fantastic. And it's
there's a little hole in the wall in York Street in Sydney. It's a little Chinese cafe, and it's parked where there's only 3 chairs inside, and you take your coffee and off you go. I was going down there once a month, and I think second or third time I went in, and I went to order my coffee. He turned around, he told me what my order was before I even asked for it.
Yeah.
So how did I feel about that? Here I am, a blow-in, just coming in once a month, and he remembers me. So how does that affect my ego? Woo!
Absolutely. Yeah.
But at the same time, it showed me this is a man who really focused on everybody who came through the door. So when he makes his cup of coffee, it's obviously made with love as well. So I can guarantee that cup of coffee to me is going to taste better than the one I got at Starbucks or one of the other cafes where nobody knows who you are, no matter how many times you go in there a day.
Yeah. Or we order it on the computer screen before you don't even get to just talk to people. Yeah, indeed.
So we've expanded apologies and gratitude into appreciation, and it's the whole. It really is all about the connection between all of those. I mean, if you go in with appreciation for something and with gratitude, there's a flowback effect. Maybe not when you have the touch screen at Starbucks, but when you're dealing with actual people, it does connect us. It really makes sure that we stay in a place where if something happens at a later point, we can refer back to this moment in time and say, we had a connection before, we can work through this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Very much so.
Fundamentally human to human connection that we it's really important that we maintain and build and foster in this increasingly techno-driven world. And then there's tiny special moments between people, between human beings that you remember. You don't remember the technology other than the fact that it's stuffed up. You remember those little touch points with those special moments with people, casual and brief and fleeting as they might be. That's what you remember.
And the same goes for apologies. It doesn't have to be the long-winded one and all of that. What I generally say is it's not about the other person. It's about me getting back into my own integrity.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's about me acknowledging that something didn't quite work. I had a situation the other day where I talked to somebody about it and it came out completely wrong. And when I saw him again, I said, I want to apologize for how I said this. And he went, what? And I said, well, I said this and I'm, that was not my intention. And he's like, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because that was really important to me. He's like, oh, okay. All right. I get that. But it would have impacted my relationship with him because there would always been, if I hadn't addressed it, there would have been that element of shame or guilt that would have not gone away. And it would have
impact every connection from there on.
Well, that's right. And there's a time limit within which one has to do that, because if it goes beyond that, you can't do it anymore, or it just feels wrong, or it's the moment it's passed.
It's how we deliver that apology as well. It's not a case of, I know some people will say apologize for not turning up or something, and they'll go on this elaborate reasoning as why they couldn't get there or why they didn't make the meeting. I would just, if I don't get to somewhere, I just ring the person, get back to them and say, look, I apologize, I screwed up. If they then, because that way I'm not giving excuses, I'm telling them I am apologetic. I am sorry for have missed it. No, everything else that follows that is an excuse. But if they then turn around to me and go, well, how'd you screw up? What happened? Now they've asked me. Now I can tell them why. I'm not putting it forward as an excuse. I'm putting it now forward because they've asked me what the reason was. So this is all about communication. It's all about building relationships, doing it respectfully.
And so I think some people feel like, oh, I'm not going to apologize because I was wrong, but I'm not going to demean myself by apologizing. We'll get stuffed because it has the opposite effect. It makes you feel better because you took that step, and as Angela explained, you feel like you have an internal obligation to, not an external one necessarily, but an internal obligation to do ethically to do that, and that feels good when you do it.
Exactly.
And there might be a few people out there who do counselling work, for instance, and they think that, well, I shouldn't be apologising to the people I'm trying to guide, etc. But if I've been in a situation where there's been somebody who's had great background, reputation, everything else, and they have not been able to make it, and they apologise, it makes me feel so much better about myself. And from that point of view, because now I'm not down here, but they've acknowledged me. So I recognize it from this point of view when I'm on the other side. If I screw up, as I said, in that situation, is getting back to that person. They say, well, look, you're this important person. Well, no, I'm not, but they may think I am. But I will say, and they'll think, well, they're lowly. And I'm going, no, we had a meeting. It was important to you. I had the meeting because it was therefore important to me as well. I didn't turn up. So I want to apologize for that. That person then immediately, if it's a counseling role, for instance, half the counseling's already done in that one moment, because now they feel that they are not insignificant, that they do matter. So our apologies are not just for us, they're for the other person as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all, again, it's about the connection. How do we really connect with people at that deep level so that we can have all sorts of conversations? No limitations on the conversation types.
Indeed. That's
gratitude, apologies, appreciation, integrity, they're all linked together. So thank you for joining us today, Dr. Chris Willems, Alan Stevens, and me. I'm Angela Heise. Thank you for being here. Let's continue to build bridges of respect, one conversation at a time. Please join us next time.